Welcome to the Responsible Parent Podcast, where overwhelmed families curious about naturally regulating their nervous system can find answers. I'm your host, Caylie O'Patik, and each week I'll serve as a reminder to you that everything is cyclical and connected. Welcome back. I took a 4-week break from the podcast. I had an internal pull that I needed to just take a pause for several reasons. And I had a feeling that I really needed to pivot my podcast. It's currently June, and I have had my podcast live now since February. And so, just kind of got some kinks out and did the thing and was like, all right, what do we do next? Right? Like now that I kind of have the rust off the wheels a little bit, what does my podcast look like moving forward? It felt like a nice little pivot point. Additionally, I was in definitely a transition. I'm still in a transition period, but was definitely in more of a pullback period when I started my podcast, and I felt the transition of the shoot forward coming soon. And so I just wanted to give myself the space for what was about to come. And as usual, my intuition was correct. And over the past 4 weeks, I acquired a job. I was unemployed for 6 months. So I finally got a new job. I was excited about, feeling super blessed, need the money. It's a better position than I could have asked for even just 6 months ago in so many ways. But I was excited and thinking that maybe God was leading me to full-time entrepreneurship, but it looks like that's not the case yet. There's still more to learn from a corporate environment, apparently, not apparently. So that's where I'm at. And then, also I was blessed with the ability to go out to California, and attend Cathy Heller's Your Turn to Podcast Summit, which was her turn to podcast. So it was Podcasting Summit for Women. It was 2 days in Hollywood on Sunset Boulevard. Absolutely incredible. I met the most incredible women, like I knew I would. Cathy refunded my whole trip, not because anything was wrong, just because that's the way God works. And um, all expenses paid. I got to take that trip and go to the seminar and eat food, and just everything was incredible. And I have to tell you, my life has been nothing but a testament to the goodness of God and taking leaps of faith, blind faith especially, over the past year. So many times, I get scared like everybody else, I feel like, and I just look for confirmation, and I look for I just try to control what's going to happen next in my life, like we all do. I mean, that's just like a part of human nature, I feel like, but especially a part of our current society. And I really have been practicing for quite a while, but I've had the ability to really put it into practice in very real, very big ways over the past 8 months to a year of just having an intuitive nudge, not having the answers, having the nudge not make any frickin' sense, and being like, follow it. I'm going to follow it and see what's the worst thing that could happen, right? At the end of the day, if I follow this nudge, I think God is leading me here. If I pray about this and then there's this that comes afterwards and I don't know what the end goal is, what's the worst thing that could happen? I go through that scenario and I go, okay, can I handle that? Yeah, I think I could. All right, let's do it. And so taking those leaps of absolute blind faith over the last 8 months to a year, and then just reaping the absolute rewards of it. And so what that's looked like for me has been first off, it was a period of kind of upheaval, right? Listening to God's nudges at first, felt like uprooting and moving because that's what was happening. God was like, nope. All right, if you are going to let me steer, I'm going to pick you up and move you someplace else. And that's a common theme through my life. He loves to do that with me, and I love to let him. It's scary, and people who don't take big leaps of faith, they don't understand it. But that's the relationship, that's the muscle that I've been building my whole life with God, and it's just really became very strong over the past year. And so, um, yeah, just complete uprooting, and we were in a period of pullback without getting into too much details, but still a very blessed period of pullback. I've been blessed with amazing people. I've been blessed with better friends than I've ever had in my entire life. I don't know how many times I've just cried out of pure joy for the people that God has brought into my life over the past year. I've literally prayed for these types of friendships, and um, I feel like in a very karmic way, the love that I've poured into relationships my whole life, whether it be with my family members, with my close friends, with my significant others, like it started to be returned to me finally, um, over this past year. Like I feel it and it's so overwhelming, and it's just incredible, right? And so I've been blessed with incredible relationships. I've been blessed with time. So I was laid off from my job and I had time. I had literally prayed for that. I said, God, finally, please. I just don't want to work and I just want to be able to live. And I just want to spend this time with Olive. Like, we really need kind of a reset button. We need to rest, and we need to just kind of recenter ourselves, within our relationship with you, God, and then within our relationship with each other. And we were given it. Like, what? That's insane. You know, I was laid off and that looks like a bad thing, but also, um, I was given a small severance package. And when we were running out of money, we had strangers and friends and family randomly give us money exactly when we needed it. And I mean, it was just, holy smokes, like you cannot make this stuff up. You can't write a better story, you know? And I just feel like I know that God continues to give me this incredible story so that I can share it. Um, because that's what it is. It's literally, it was just me continually returning to God and continually building a relationship with Jesus, and sharing that practice with my daughter, you know, from being kind of a all-inclusive, fair weather Christian, really, curious about Christianity, knowing that it's something that I want, but not really fully understanding how to dive into it because honestly, I wasn't raised that way. Um, and life got busy right after I left home, and so I did the best I could, but I didn't really fully dive in and understand. And doing that over the past year has just been, I've had such incredible, tangible blessings. So there's all that. And in addition to all of that, here comes the uh, move forward period, right? So it's in the pullback period, and I kept feeling this momentum building. It builds and builds and builds, and I was like, okay, what's next? What's next? I can feel something coming, and it feels big. Boy, did I not know what it was. So I thought maybe at this podcast summit that I went to, God would bless me with incredible connections, which he did. But I was like, oh man, some rich girl is just going to be like, hey, you and Olive, come live on my property. Like, like come forage on my property and start your own like medicinal herb school and lead kids in learning about how God provides the right, plants for you when you need it, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be so cool. Like my rich girlfriend is coming up here. Like I'm gonna meet her. And that isn't what it was, which is fine because you know what? I met some incredible people and I'm so excited to connect with them more just in general. Um, but the blessings that have come, I feel like it's a fire hose of blessings over the past 3 weeks, and which is, like, so incredible, but also my nervous system is so overwhelmed because I'm like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa. I have never been in any of these situations ever before. I've never made the amount of money that I just started making. I've never had the responsibility I just started having. I've never, um, balanced work and life the way with the extremity that I get the privilege of doing now. I've never had to lean so heavily on friends, um, and, like, on my community ever before. This is all new to me, and so my nervous system is just like, "Okay, alright, okay." And so really just practicing what it means to manage that, and I could tell you right now, it has not been breath work. It has not been a prayer routine. I have not managed it perfectly, and I have been overwhelmed, and, it has not been movement, but I have gotten outside. It hasn't been perfect, but I notice when I get overwhelmed, and I go, "Okay, right now, I just need to take a hot second. Right now, I just need to lay down and close my eyes. Right now, I just need to go for a walk outside." And I've been allowing myself to do those things when I feel that I need them. This week has been particularly overwhelming because I, little old Caylie, solo parent, 33 years old, bought my first house. I have been renting since I was 18 years old, paying $1 million. I mean, I probably literally paid over $1 million since I've been renting. Um, and I tried to buy houses with my ex-boyfriend for 3.5 years. We put offers on 3 houses, and they all got declined, and they all got outbid by, like, 3 to f or, like, 20 to $40,000 over asking price and cash offers, and I mean, just like it was God just shutting the door, shutting the door, shutting the door. And I was so frustrated at the time because I was like, "I just want a house, and I just wanna build this family," and, thank God that that happened because I just got my first house by myself. We haven't officially closed yet. We close in July, but, everything is going so smoothly, it's freaky. I, like, bought a house in an hour and a half. It was the whole story is just incredible. Um, it's just incredible how everything happened, which I'll spare you the details, but give me a call if you wanna talk about it because it's just insane how everything has fell into place. And how smoothly it's all going, and it's not to say it's not work, because it is work, and that's also what's overwhelming, but then there's also this part of me that's like, I've never been in this situation before. I've never owned a house, I've never purchased a house, I've never been responsible for a mortgage, I've never lived in the area I'm going to live, and so there's a sense of overwhelm in that arena as well because it's a lot. Again, not complaining, like, holy smokes, I'm so blessed. I am so blessed, like, I have cried so many happy tears like I am right now, like, I just continue to cry happy tears because it's, like, all I can do, and Olive keeps watching me, and I just keep telling her, "Hey, baby, these are happy tears, not sad tears." And I'm trying to explain to her, like especially when it comes to buying a house, like, nobody that I know, let alone anybody in my family lineage, has ever purchased a house by themselves, let alone a mom, let alone a woman, let alone a single mom. Like, it just hasn't happened, and so my ancestors don't even know how to guide me on this, you know? Like, there's no guidebook for it. It's uncharted territory, and, like, I'm so blessed, and I'm so happy, but I am overwhelmed. I'd be lying to say that I wasn't. Um, so, yeah, that's just a oh, no. I don't have any tissues. Oh, this is gonna be a mess. Oh, found one. Oh, I wasn't even going to get on here and talk about this. I was going to talk about something else, which is hilarious. So I'll get around to that as well. But anyway, that's what I've been up to for the past 4 weeks. There's been a lot. And so, yes, my podcast is also shifting with all of that. And actually, I'm not even sure I have the full direction that we're shifting into. And I am A-okay with that because I was at church a couple weeks ago at prayer night and I got a download like instantly of this is your podcast. This is what you should be doing. This is what you should call it. And I don't want to say it's completely different from what we're doing now, because I am the voice and the heart and the soul behind this podcast. And so, of course, it'll be similar no matter what I do moving forward. But it's a different topic. And I really feel, however, that it really plays into my strengths rather than my hobbies, right? And not that regulating the nervous system is my hobby. It was a similar message, right? Like definitely something that I wanted to lean into, but I've found it's been hard for me to fully wrap my mind around how to best give people tools within that. So number one, if any of my podcast episodes have been a tool that has helped you or you've found tools within it that has helped you, please let me know because just that feedback alone could help me keep going on this same direction. Because ultimately, the reason I have this podcast is to serve you. Like, it's to serve you, to serve people who need it. And from my experience, right? Because I am not perfect and I am not experienced at everything, but I am very experienced at some things. And I would love nothing more than to help people with what I do know. And so the direction that kind of came to me to shift into when I was at church has been confirmed to me several times over outside of that as well. And it's more focused on just women sharing their stories, very specific stories, but I could just I see the impact that's made within the podcast industry when women share their stories. And actually, this is a great segue. I didn't mean to do this, but the reason I'm okay with not knowing what I'm doing as well is because when I was at the podcast summit, Cathy Heller, number one, has the biggest, most amazing, most open, most expansive, most spiritual presence and heart. And her bringing women together means that she's bringing the same women with the same type of energy together. And it was just so incredible. And the speakers that she brought on were just out freaking standing. And I could go on and on and on about the speakers that were there because holy smokes. And I probably will at some point, but I want to try to make this a little more concise. There was one specific message that I thought was so vital and important, and it was women specifically take time to incubate what we're creating. And it was such, without anybody knowing when they were speaking on stage, it was such a freaking permission slip for me. And I know, I'm sure, for many others that were in the audience of my mind moves 100 miles per hour and I am very creative. I'm a big picture thinker. I am a CEO mindset. I am orchestrator. Here's the 10-mile vision and here are all the steps to get there. And I need to hire in people to help me take those steps for me. And I need to orchestrate it, right? Like that's me. That's how God built me. But with that, I'm very creative because I'm always thinking of how can we make things better? What would be the next best thing? How can we make it prettier, faster, stronger, more resilient, easier? Like that's just, my brain has always worked that way. One of my best friends from childhood Um, we became best friends at 7 years old. She used to always say to me, like, when I was little, I was thinking about Barbies and you were thinking about running countries. You were so different. And I believe that. I see that now in myself, and I see that in my daughter. She's very similar to me, and it's really cool watching her grow up with it. But anyways, this permission slip that was given without these speakers knowing at the summit was this realization I had from a culmination of all of the conversations that were being had on stage, especially on the first day, which was, think about the way women give birth. Okay. So there is the incubation, there's the seed, right? The seed is planted, and you think of that as like an idea. Okay. The seed is planted. Now that is what I'm good at that. I'm really good at planting those seeds, right? Like I'm excellent at coming up with ideas. I'm excellent at impregnating myself with these ideas, right? And then you have 9 months, right? 9 months where it looks like from the outside, nothing's happening. You can't see what's going on inside of a woman's belly. You can see some signs from the outside. Maybe there's some swelling. Maybe, she's flushing out. Her stomach is growing. That's a more obvious sign, right? But like for the most part, you can't see that the fingers are being formed, that the neurons, connections are being formed, and, all the organs are being formed and built, and their features and their DNA is just, just stacking together. You don't see all of that, but it's being done. There's a lot of work that's being done under the surface, and there is a ton that is done in the dark and a ton that is done in the quiet. And then after 9 months, we have this amazing external experience where birth is given, and it's big, and it's potentially usually painful, and it's loud, and it's a lot of energy. There's this big burst of energy, and new life is created, but the life was being created for 9 months, right? And maybe even before that, but you don't see that part. But you see this part where all of a sudden, like, bam, life is created at the end of 9 months. And then that's kind of it for the most part. But it's not, right? Because after the child is born, that is the beginning of your parenthood. That's the beginning of your motherhood. That's the beginning of the rest of your life, and the beginning of this new life that you given birth to, right? And there's so many stages and so much to be said after that, but that is an infinite journey, and it literally never ends. So just sincerely thinking about my journey, and even my journey to podcasting, God planted in me. I was at a local IF conference, which is like a Women of Jesus conference, at a local church of mine. Life changed. Thank you, Kelly Moore, if you're listening to this, for bringing me there. Back in 2021. And at that point in time, I was February, I believe it was 2021. I was given the direction, you need to share your voice. Your voice needs to be heard, and you need to do it in the form of a podcast first. And I was like, what? I don't have time for extra things. Like, girl, I'm a solo mom. I have a full-time job. I'm homeschooling my daughter. This is batshit. But the seed was planted, and it wasn't my seed. And it was a co-creation with me, of course, because I know what I'm called to. But anyways, and I spent, in 2019, I got my LLC with the state of Michigan. I didn't know what I was going to do with it. I just knew that I needed one because I have an entrepreneurial spirit. In 2020, I bought into a multi-level marketing company, which is incredible, and I still absolutely love that. But my LLC came in handy for that. And then, I changed my Instagram handles a few times, and I purchased my website, The Responsible Parent. I purchased that URL, and I made it private, and I've been slowly building. I purchased a podcast mic and I purchased the pop filter over the past since 2021, over the past 3 years, and I I enrolled myself last October in Cathy Heller's program, You Turn to Podcast, because I said, "I'm not gonna be able to do it right now, but I know God's gonna free up time for me, and so I want this sitting here. I wanna pay the 3 grand, and I want it to sit there for when I'm ready for it." And then what happened 2 months later? Bam, I got laid off, and it was sitting there waiting for me. And I could dive into the course, and I knew exactly how to start my podcast and what I wanted to do, and, um, all of that work, I mean, that's 5 years of work, essentially, that was in the belly, it was in the dark, it was under the radar. There was countless self-help coaching and counseling sessions that I paid for and went to. I kept investing in myself. I kept investing in business classes and entrepreneurial classes and showing up online and trying to figure out, what social media marketing looks like. I mean, the amount of time and energy and money I've spent over the past 5 years on this has been incredible because I did a lot of work to know that I wanted to push past the barriers that tell me, my internal voice tells me, like, you should not invest in yourself. Like, if you have a little bit of extra money, like, that should go towards something else. That should go towards your daughter. You should save that towards a house. Like, there was just so much. Thank God I didn't. Thank God I didn't, because I can honestly say I'm so happy I am where I am right now. And it's just like, holy smokes, high five, Caylie. I'm just proud of myself too, which I feel like is such a rare thing. And just 2 years ago, I was in the depths of depression for the first time in my life. And I mean, like, the type of depression that runs in your family, like deep seated, you're not going to find a way out type depression. And to be here just 2 years later is such a success story for me. And it's just something that I want to continue to document and to remember, because we forget the ups and downs in life, I think. And we forget, it's like Frank Sinatra's, "You're flying high in April, shot down in May. But I know I'm gonna change that tune when I'm back on top in June," right? Like, it's boop, boop, it's a roller coaster. And we forget that. We forget that. But I can tell you right now, even if everything that was just given to me was taken away, the summation of my life is still really great. It's at a high level. We're buzzing. And it's not that everything's perfect. And you know what? I have been eating like absolute crap for like 2 years straight. My exercise routine has been down the drain for the past 2 years straight, pretty much since my depression. And I have aged like 10 years over the past 2 years. I mean, it's just insane. So, like, not everything's incredible, but the summation of my life feels incredible. And I also know that I'm taking the right steps to have everything just be better than it's ever been before. And everything that's been happening has been such a confirmation for me that that is what's happening, right? Like, it is happening. It's live. I'm literally experiencing things that are so incredible and that I've never felt before. I was interviewing for a job. I'm still interviewing for a job, besides the one that I have now, that is the job that I wrote up. I wrote a whole um, job description, organizational chart for many, many times, presented it to the company I was at. They continued to shoot it down. I've been praying and asking for this position, praying and asking for this position, praying and asking for this position at the job I was at. Never came to fruition. Now, all of a sudden, the company out of left field comes up and says, "Hey, we have this position. We'd like to create it for you. This is what we see you doing. Also, this is the pay that we want to give you." And I've been completely transparent with them with my background and my experience and my knowledge on everything that they want to hire in. no embellishment whatsoever. And they're like, yeah, that's perfect. That's great. That's exactly what we need. What? I've never felt that before. I've always had to prove myself or felt like I had to prove myself. And in every single way right now, my life is just, it's like the whole world is just, oh, I keep crying. It's just giving me a big hug saying, yeah, yeah, you're incredible. Like the way you are is incredible. You don't have to change. Like, you don't have to do anything differently. We see your value. We see your worth exactly where you're at. You don't have to strive for more. You will keep doing better. You'll keep getting better. But we see the value in what you bring to the table right now. And we love that. And we want to compensate you for that. And we want to, you know, give and pour into you for that. And it's just, again, overwhelming. Not in a bad way, just overwhelming. I've just simply have never felt it before. And so it's a very, very special time in my life. And there's a lot of guilt that comes along with it. And I'm afraid of, there's times where I'm afraid of giving in too much to the things that I want and need or that I'm working towards, and that I may be pushing, you know, my mother responsibilities to the side. And it's literally just the little demons inside my head, because if I sit back and I ask, is that true? It's absolutely not true. Like it's not. Like, I know I'm an incredible mother. There's always room for improvement. Um, but you know, I'm a damn good mom. I really am. And I wouldn't do anything differently that I've done up until this point. And I will continue to improve, you know, in my motherhood journey with all the advances that are happening in the rest of my life. Because it's like a video game. I feel like I'm like level up, you know, like I got new superpowers now. Like it's not just, I'm not playing on level 4 with level 1 powers. You know, I'm playing on level 1 or on level 4 with level 4 powers. I'm suited up. And that's what I feel like that pulling back period was doing for me. And I knew it during the time too. I just didn't know what it was for. But I see it now, right? Like God was setting me up for this next level, which is just incredible. And I'm just so happy. I'm scared. It's like a roller coaster. Or, you know, I've never skydived, but I can imagine what skydiving feels like. I really want to, by the way. So if somebody wants to hook me up. Um, but you know, where you're sitting there and you know it's going to be amazing and you've been wanting to do it your whole life and you've been praying and asking for it. But when you're standing on the edge of the plane, I can only imagine that's scary as heck. And you're going to, everything in your body is going to tell you to not jump. But if you don't jump, then you don't get that experience you've been praying for your whole life, right? So yes, that is, in summation, where I'm at. Wrapping it back up a little bit. Let's see if I can bring it back down. Um, women take time to build beautiful, large, creative, perfectly designed things. We are one half of God, right? God created man and he said, nope, that's not quite me. And then all the rest of it went to us, right? Like we are intuitive, we are powerful, we transmute, we literally create something from absolutely freaking nothing. We can literally create from energy itself, create matter from energy. That's insane. You know, I mean, we have compassion. We have foresight. Like there's just so much that's incredible and innate about us. And I'm never going to shut up about it because women couldn't even have credit cards in the United States in the 80s. Like, I mean, we're still working on evening things out a little bit. And we are absolutely, most definitely in the midst of a world ran by man, especially in the United States, which we can get into a different time. I love men, absolutely love men. Can't wait to meet my husband. But we're very different and we're good at different things, right? And yeah, I just realizing that I don't need to do things a man's way in order to feel successful is a constant journey for me because that's been my life, That's I was told in middle school, high school, college, and my adult career that that is how I gain success. I have to do things in a masculine way. I have to follow the white male CEO's blueprint in order to get to be a white female CEO. And going to the podcast summit and seeing beautiful, successful women that were all sorts of shapes and sizes and colors and all sorts of backgrounds. I mean, we had women who grew up in the hood, and we had women who grew up in Beverly Hills. And I mean, it just witnessing and being in the presence of so many successful, wholehearted, giant-hearted women. And they said, I wasn't successful from being cutthroat. I was successful from doing things my way, the feminine way. And that isn't all like, woo-woo, like prayer, breath work. Not that that is woo-woo. That word, that term should just go away because everything works if you let it work. um, but just being in the presence of these women who are like, hey, actually, you know how women work? They have an idea and it changes and it takes time to form into what it is going to be. And I think about this too, like back to the birth analogy, like when a fetus is formed, we're all female, right? And then later, the male appendage may form or whatever. Or is it the opposite way? I don't even know right now. My brain's all over the place. But it's what, so basically you're one gender when the fetus is formed, and then it changes. It changes into something else, And I think just giving ourselves the permission of allowing whatever we're creating, whatever we're birthing, whatever is gestating within us, allowing it to change. Because in the capitalistic society we live in currently, we're condemned if we changed our minds, if we change the direction, if we change structure. It's a very check the boxes culture. And so, if you don't have this box checked, you can't move on to the other box. And I don't move in boxes. I can, but my mind is like a spider web, and one thing doesn't lead to the next thing. Sometimes it does, but sometimes the one thing leads to an adjacent item or an adjacent item 5 rows over. And then I move up from there, and then I move back to a different one 2 rows over, and then up from there, like I have an incredible mind. It's not a bad thing. It's an incredible mind, and it's gotten me incredible places spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and financially. And I know that. But it's not the way our capitalistic society works. And so just having that confirmation that if you're creative and you are building something, it's okay if it's changing under the surface before you bring it out to the public. And when you bring it out to the public, when you finally have that big push, that big birthing process, it's okay if it changes after that. And it's okay if that big birthing process was a ton of energy and you expended a ton of energy. And guess what you get to do? You get to rest. Oh my gosh, what a concept. Another thing that I took away from the Your Turn to Podcast Summit, you get to rest. Give yourself permission to rest. Did you expend a bunch of energy? Okay, well, guess what? You get to rest now. It's about balance, right? Think about birthing. Again, back to that same concept. This wasn't driven hard in the summit. This is my personal relation. The way that I'm like seeing it, visualizing it in my head. But it's not like we just talked about birthing for 2 days straight, just to be clear. But rest, that you do a bunch rest. And I talk about that all the time. I even created like a reel about that in like 2019 on Instagram where I was like, we should normalize resting after business sprints, because I was trying to do like a corporate account at the time. But it's just, that's not normalized. It's you sprint and then you sprint some more and then you sprint again and then you sprint some more. And then if you're, like my coworkers at Nike and you're, 42 years old, you have a stroke and you die. And they call that normal. And that's effing insane because you have an entire family and a world of people who are counting on you to be the best version of you that you can be. But our capitalistic society does not allow us to rest. Hard. It's hard. I got to play the game at some point, right? Because I don't apparently have all the skills yet that I need to move forward on my own someday. But right now I'm blessed to be able to play the game as well as I do. I honestly, outside of my work, don't know anybody else in my life that would be able to hold the type of jobs that I hold, and let alone alongside the life that I hold, right? So I know that I'm blessed to have those capabilities, and I'm blessed to be able to participate in capitalism right now. But I just was really pleased with the permission slip that I felt from the summit of women do things differently. It takes time. The best minds in human history that we know that are recorded either did something incredible when they were really young and died, or didn't do something super incredible that they became famous for until after they were like 50, 60, 70 years old, right? Which just shows how long our character takes to develop. And how long it takes us, kind of back to the video game analogy, to level up, level up and get the new tools and suit up for your new level. Get the new advantages that come with aging. So that was a lot. I don't know. So many tangents, but also very connected. And I hope you feel that today. At the end of all of this, at the end of life, it's nothing else. I think I have spent a shit ton of time, a lot of time, contemplating how life works, how I work within that, how I change that, and how to just benefit the most possible people and the most possible wildlife and plants with my limited time I have here. And I think the permission slip that's been given to me through all of this as well is just to say, hey, you've thought about that enough. You thought about that enough. You thought about it to death. How about you just go live? Just do it. Just go live. And don't be afraid. Worst comes to worst, what happens? Well, you're going to be homeless? Well, you've done that before. You survived. Worst comes to worst, what's going to happen? You're going to lose your job? Well, you've done that before. What's going to happen? Nothing. You'll be fine. You're supported. You don't know how, but you will be. And it's just so confirming. But also the funny thing is when you do take big leaps of faith and you know that they're for the right reasons, you're not going to fall on your faith. You're not going to be homeless. You're not going to be in a pinch, because that's not the way that God works. When you take big leaps of faith for the right reasons, with the right community around you, you'll always be held. You'll always be caught, and you will be put in a place that is higher and better and more beautiful than you could have ever even conceived. And we get that message all of the time from motivational speakers, but I'm telling you right now, be my witness. It's true. It's so true. I love you so much. Thank you for listening. Thank you for letting me pour my heart out. And I am going to keep you posted, honestly, on the future of this podcast. I'm not going to stop podcasting. Um, that's not going to happen. It may be a bit slower with all the huge changes that are happening in my life right now, but it's not going to cease. So, continuing progress one way or another. And please send me a message. Send me a message. Let's chat. I want to know what you thought of all of this and what's been on your heart lately and how I can help you have the courage to take the next step in blind faith, because that's all it is courage. And fear is just an illusion. It's a liar. Fear is a liar. And I'm beginning to discover that more and more and truly understand that phrase. So let me know. Let's chat it out. I love you. And yeah, have a great rest of your week.